So, good evening everyone. So, my name is Louis J. A. Samole. I'm the student 13 sa class na CE 545 code 5976. So, my report is all about Dpwh Bluebook chapter 700 to 707. So, first is the chapter 700 hydraulic cement. So, Portland and masonry cement. So, under sa Portland and masonry cement is cement shall conform to the requirements of the following cited specifications for the type specified or permitted. So this is the table or the types and specifications. So type is the Portland cement. Specifications is AASHTO M85 or ASTM C150. Blended hydraulic cements AASHTO M240 or ASTMC 595. Last is the masonry cement AASHTO M150-74 or ASTMC 91. So, by the way, ang Portland cement or cement is nakadepends na siya sa types. So, mo ni ang example sa types niya. So, when types 4 and 5 AASHTO M85 P and PA AASHTO M150 cements are used, proper recognition shall be given to the effects of slower strength gain on concrete proportioning and construction practices. So, mo ni ang types is type S and SA. So, by the way, if magpalit ka og mga cements, so makita nimo tong mga types niya. So, type S and SA cements will be permitted only when blended with Portland cement in proportions approved by the engineer. So, approved by the engineer. So, unless otherwise permitted by the engineer, the product of only 1 mil of any one brand and type of Portland cement shall be used on the project. The contractor shall provide suitable means of storing and protecting the cement against dampness. Cement which for any reason has become partially set or which contains lumps or cake cement will be rejected. Cements salvaged from discarded or used bag shall not be used. So, dapat proper jud kung as a puan ka purchaser or puan ka kanang nakay construction. So, dapat ipuan jud mo ni ang mga types niya nga preferable o katong good para for construction nga mga cements. So next is 701 construction lime hydrated. So under ani is first is the general chemical requirements, physical requirements, grading requirements, and sampling. So further is the general. So hydrated lime shall conform to the requirements of PhilSA I-1-68 or ASTM-C 207-76 and shall be of the following type. So these are the types. So type N, normal hydrated lime for masonry purposes. Type S is the special hydrated lime for masonry purposes. Type NA is normal air and training hydrated lime for masonry purposes. Type SA, special air and training hydrated lime for masonry purposes. So type NS are suitable for use in mortar, in scratch and brown coats of cement plaster for stucco and for addition to Portland cement concrete. Type NA and SA are air and train hydrated limes that are suitable for use in any of the above uses where air entrainment are desired. Type S and SA hydrated lime develop high early plasticity and higher water retentivity and by a limitation on their unhydrated oxide content. It is the intent of the specification to use either the type N or S for soil stabilization and as filler requirement to bituminous plant mixtures. It is expected to provide pavements with greater resistance to the detrimental effects of water, especially flooding during the rainy season. So next is the chemical requirements. So hydrated lime for construction purposes shall conform to the following standard chemical requirements. So ang Bluebook day is legit and module na siya ang proper way na i-follow na to as an engineer in the future or tanan engineer diri labi na magtrabaho sa Dpwh. So kung unsa ang nakabutang sa mga tables or unsa pud ang mga nakuha nila specifications, so must follow and guide na sila para sa ato ang success contract constructions near the future. So calcium and magnesium oxides, non-volatile basis, minimum percent is 60. So this is the percentage, so 60. So carbon dioxide as received basis, max percent. If sample is taken at the place of manufacture, if sample is taken at any other place, so 3, so 5% or 7%. Anhydrated oxides as received basis for type S and SA, max percent is 8. So next is the physical requirements. So hydrated lime for construction purposes shall conform to the following standard physical requirements. So first is A, the percentage residue. So the residue retained on a 0.600 mm or number 30 sieve shall not be more than 0.57% and not more than 15% on a 0.075 mm or number 200 sieve. Next is the plasticity. The putty made from type S special hydrate or type SA special air entraining hydrate shall have plasticity figure of not less than 200 when tested within 30 minutes after mixing the water. C is the water retention. So hydrated lime mortar made with type N normal hydrated lime or type NA normal air entraining lime after suction for 60 seconds shall have a water retention value of not less than 75% and not less than 85%. For type S and SA, when tested in a standard mortar made from the dry hydrate or from putty made from the hydrate which has been soaked for a period of 16 to 24 hours. So that's for the physical requirement. So next is the grading requirement. So conform to the following grading requirements. So this is the table. So sieve designation standard. This is the standard. Also naka mm. So 0.850 mm and 0.075 mm. So alternate US standard. So mao ni siguro ang gina-follow as a sa Dpwh. So number 20 and number 200. So mass percent processing is 100% and 85 to 100%. So next is the sampling. So samples of construction lime shall be taken at the place of manufacture or at the destination as agreed upon by the parties concerned. If the samples are taken elsewhere than at a place of manufacture, such samples shall be taken within 24 hours of the receipt of the material. So sample for chemical analysis as received at the laboratory shall be thoroughly mixed, quartered, and a representative sample taken and crushed to pass a 0.15 mm or number 100 sieve for analysis. The remaining uncrushed portion shall be released for further possible tests. So i-test na dyan siya. Next is the rejection. So materials failing to meet the specification requirements shall be reported to the manufacturer within 1 week after tests have been completed and the cause for rejectional shall be stated. So ang cause po sa rejection is about the shipment. Kunyari nasa gawas, so ang weather po, so if mag-init, so ang bakal, so murag mo taas siya and murag mo nga nana. Next is the packing. Lime and limestone products may be shipped in bulk or in containers agreed upon by the manufacturer and the purchaser. The most common units for hydrated lime are paper bags holding 23 kilograms or 50 pounds, LBS 11.5 kilograms, 4.5 kilograms, or 2.3 kilograms. So, next is 702 bituminous materials. So, these bituminous are under asphalt cement, liquid asphalts, and emulsified asphalts. So, first is the asphalt cement. So, asphalt cement shall conform to the requirements of AASH to M226, while the liquid asphalts shall conform to the requirements of the following specifications. So rapid curing liquid asphalts, AASH to M81, medium curing liquid asphalts, AASH to M82, emulsified asphalts shall conform to the requirements also of the following specifications. So emulsified asphalt, AASH to M140 or ASTM D977, emulsified asphalt or AAI types, and AASH to M208. So 702, wait lang. I'm sorry. Sorry guys. So, okay. So, this one. So, back to the topic. So, 702 acceptance procedures for bituminous materials. So, first is the general and the quality control reviews. So, in general, bituminous materials will be accepted at the source of shipment subject to the following conditions. So first is the supplier shall conduct laboratory tests of all materials intended for shipment to the government and certify that the materials meet the contract specifications. So before nimo na kuhaon magkuhan ka sa magkuhan ka sa government, so napakay mga pangbayaran ana og nakadepende po na kung ang ilang specifications is nag-meet or sakto. Then is before loading, the producer shall examine the shipping container, remove all remnants of previous cargoes which might contaminate the material to be loaded and certify that it was clean and free of contaminating material and loaded. Next is the contractor shall furnish with each shipment 2 copies of the delivery ticket. The delivery tickets shall contain the following information. So these are the form. So consignee. So project number, grade, net liters, destination, date, loading and temperature. So net weight. So kailangan ni sila tanan before ma-accept sa government. Kung di ni sila mag-meet, so na magka-aberya, na napoy other nga process or procedure na pod. So the contractor or the supplier as his agent shall deliver to the engineer of his representative a certification signed by an authorized representative of the supplier to cover the quality and quantity of material and the condition of the container for each shipment. The certification shall be essentially in the following form and may be stamped, written, or printed on the delivery tickets. So in this case, kailangan jud og written and dapat written jud ang perma. Kaya mo jud ang importante. So this is to certify that this shipment of asphalt meets all contract specification requirements of the Dpwh and the shipping container was clean and free contaminating material when loaded. So producer and signature. So dapat signature handwritten jud, bawal jud ng mga photocopy or gi-print or gi-email lang tapos silang pirma dili jud. So failure to sign the certification will be a cause to withhold use of the material and it can be sample tested and approved. So quality control reviews will be conducted by the government or an authorized representative at the point of production at frequencies prescribed by the Dpwh to determine the reliability of the producer's certifications. So next is 702.2 alternate acceptance procedures for asphalt materials. So acceptance samples of bituminous materials shall be obtained in accordance with AASHTO T40 sampling bituminous materials at the applicable point of acceptance as defined herein. So bituminous materials used in direct application on the road, acceptance sample shall be obtained under the supervision of the engineer from the conveyances containing the bituminous material at the point of delivery. Single sample shall be taken of each separate tank load of bituminous material delivered at time of discharge into distributors or other conveyances on the project. Next is bituminous materials initially discharged into storage tanks on the project. Acceptance sample shall be obtained from the line between the storage tank and the distributor of the bituminous mixing plant. After each delivery, a single acceptance sample shall be taken after sufficient period of circulation of such bituminous materials has taken place to ensure samples representative of the total materials then in the storage tank. As soon after sampling as practicable, the acceptance sample shall be delivered by the engineer to the nearest authorized laboratory for tests to determine compliance. Next is 702.3 requirements for bituminous materials containing anti-stripping additives. So all of the foregoing requirements of item 702 shall apply for the type of bituminous material involved. Additionally, the contractor or the supplier as his agent shall furnish the engineer or his representative along with and the time of delivery of the initial shipment of fortified bituminous material to the project, and thereafter with the subsequent shipments when ordered by the engineer, 1 liter or 1 quart sealed sample of the bituminous material taken at the time of loading at the refinery and prior to introduction of the additive, along with a separate of 0.5 liter sample of the anti-stripping additive involved. Next is application temperature. So, bituminous materials for the several application indicated in the specification shall be applied within the temperature ranges indicated in the table 702.1. So, this is the table application temperature. So, type and grade of material. So, here are the types. So, RT1-2-2, RT4-5-6, RT7-8-9. So these are the some of the type of grade of material. So applications. So spray. So minimum and maximum. So this is the minimum and the maximum. So if in all grades, so 204 is the maximum. So temperature range, minimum and maximum. So as required to achieve viscosity of 75 to 150 seconds to achieve a kinematic viscosity of 150 to 300 mm squared per second, 150 centistoke. So tables shall apply unless temperature ranges applicable to specific lots of material delivered to the job are supplied by the producer. So next is the material for damp proofing and waterproofing concrete and masonry surfaces. So these are the tables or the types and specifications. So material shall conform to the requirements of the following specifications. So primer for use with asphalt, AASH to M116. Primer for use with tar, AASH to M121 or ASTM D43. Or it may be a liquid water gas tar conforming to the following requirements. So these are the requirements. So specific gravity, the bitumen and water not more than 0.2%. So si tar for mop or seal coats. Coal tar pitch heated to free flowing but not to exceed 149 degrees Celsius or 300 degree Fahrenheit. AASH to M118 type B or ASTM G450. So next is the rubberized tar heated for the 4 to free flowing but not to exceed 121 degrees Celsius. Asphalt for mop coat, AASH to M115 waterproofing fabric, AASH to M117 or ASTM D100 1668. For mortar materials shall conform to section 705 except the mortar shall be uniformly mixed to consistency in the portion of part 1 Portland cement to 3 parts fine aggregate. So asphalt plank AASH to M46 or ASTM D517. So unless otherwise shown on the plans, plank shall be 30 mm thick and may be from 150 to 300 mm in width, but all pieces for one structure shall be of the same width except such closures as may be necessary. So the length shall be such as to permit the laying of the planks to the best advantage on the surface to be covered, but shall not be less than 0.9 nor more than 2.5 meters. Asphalt roll roofing, so ASTMD 224 65-pound grade. So bridge deck waterproofing membrane shall be mesh reinforced self-sealing rubberized asphalt perform membrane and shall have the following properties. So these are the properties, guys. So thickness, tensile strength, puncture resistant, pliability, so no cracks in rubberized asphalt. So ASTMD 146. So primer and mastic shall be as recommended by the manufacturer and shall be compatible with the membrane. Tar shall conform to the requirements of AH2M 52. So as you can see, so napuan ninyo nga ang Dpwh is nagapuan jud sa AH2. So next is 702.6 dust oils. So dust oils and clarified dust oils shall conform to the following requirements. So these are the requirements. So these are the tables. So general requirements: flash point, degrees Celsius, viscosity, water maximum, asphaltness, saturates minimum, total distillate, viscosity, solubility. So this is the IASTM method. Dust oil, so light, medium, heavy. So these are the specifications. Distillation, clarified, dust oil. So as modified in procedure as test method of determination of asphaltene and saturate content of dust oils by materials testing laboratory. Region 1, USDA Forest Service, Missoula, empty dated November 1970. Copies of the procedure are available from the Regional Materials Engineer, Region 1 USDA Forest Service, Missoula, MT 598011. So except that the residue remaining after a temperature of 288 degrees Celsius instead of 360 degrees Celsius shall be used for further testing. Excuse me. As modified in procedure identified as standard method of the test for distillation of Forest Service dust oil. Dated July 1972. Copies of the procedure are available from the Regional Materials Engineer Region 1, USDA Forest Service, MT 59801. So next is 703, the aggregates. So these are the under sa aggregate. So fine aggregate for concrete and incidental. So fine aggregate for concrete shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M6 with no deleterious substances in excess of the following percentages. So mo gyapon siya yung percentages, guys. So clay lumps 3%, coal and ignite 1%, material passing of 0.075 mmC is 4%. Other substances as shown in the special provisions. So, lightweight aggregate, if required or permitted by the special provisions, shall meet the pertinent requirements of AASHTO M195. So, granular backfill filter material for under drains and filler for paved waterways shall be permeable and shall meet the requirements of AASHTO M6. Except that soundness test will not be required and minor variations in grading and content of deleterious substances may be approved by the engineer. So aggregate for minor concrete structures shall be clean, durable, uniformly graded, sand and gravel, crushed slag or crushed stone, 100% of which will pass a 37.5 mm or 1 1/2 sieve and containing not more than 5% passing the 0.075 mm. So number 200 sieve. Excuse me. Next is the coarse aggregate for Portland cement concrete. So coarse aggregate for concrete shall meet the requirements of AASHTO M80. Lightweight aggregate, if required or permitted by the special provisions, shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M195 for the grading specified. Aggregate for the Portland cement treated and stabilized base course. So the crushed and uncrushed granular material shall consist of hard, durable stones and rocks of accepted quality, free from an excess of flat, elongated, soft or disintegrated pieces or other objectionable matter. The method used in obtaining the aggregate shall be such that the finished product shall be as consistent as practical. All materials passing the 4.75 mm or number 4 mesh produced in the crushing operation of either the stone of gravel shall be incorporated in the base material. Excuse me. To the extent permitted by the gradation requirements. The plasticity index shall not be less for nor more than 10. Next is the aggregate for untreated sub-base, base or surface courses. So aggregate shall consist of hard, durable particles of fragments of crushed stone, crushed slag or crushed or natural gravel. For surface courses, the fraction passing the 0.425 mm number 40 sieve shall have a liquid limit not greater than 35 and plasticity index not less than 4 or greater than 9. Materials otherwise meeting the requirements of the section will be acceptable whenever such materials produce a compacted course meeting applicable density requirements as specified in subsections 203, 201, 202, and 203.6. Excuse me guys, sorry. So 703.1 aggregate for bituminous concrete. So coarse aggregate obtained on the 2.36 mm number 8 sieve the shall be crushed stone, crushed slag or crushed or natural gravel and unless otherwise stipulated shall conform to the quality requirements of AASHTO M79-74. When crushed gravel is used, it shall meet the pertinent requirements of Section 2.1 and 3.1 of AASHTO M62-74. Not less than 50 mass percent of the particles detained on the 4.75 mm number 4 sieve shall have at least one fractured face. Next is the fine aggregate. So fine aggregate passing the 2.36 mm number 8 sieve shall consist of natural sandstone, stone screenings or slag screenings or a combination thereof and unless otherwise stipulated shall conform to the quality requirements of AASHTO M29 or ASTM-D 1073. Excuse me. Next is the open graded asphalt concrete friction course. So aggregate shall conform to subsections 703.5.1 and 703.5.2 above and the following requirements. Native pure carbonate aggregates or any aggregates known to polish shall not be used for the coarse aggregate fraction. In addition, the coarse aggregate fraction shall have at least 75 mass percent of weight of particles with at least 2 fractured faces and 90 mass percent with 1 or more fractured faces, except that lightweight aggregates need not meet this requirement. Next is the lightweight aggregate or except slag. So walang slag. So lightweight aggregate, if required or permitted by a special provision, shall be manufactured by the rotary kiln process. The material shall consist of angular fragments, uniform in density and reasonably free from flat, elongated or other deleterious substances. So AASHTO T96, the dry mass per cubic meter shall not exceed 1080 kilograms after testing through 5 cycles. Next is aggregate for bituminous plant mix surfacing. So aggregate shall be uniformly graded from coarse to fine. Target values for the intermediate sieve sizes shall be established within the limits shown in Table 703.1. So this is the table, guys. Excuse me. Range of gradation target values. So sieve designation in millimeters. Mass percent passing square sieves ASHTO. So range 100, 150 to 60, 30 to 48. So this is the minimum for sun equivalent is 35. So under this one is no intermediate sizes of aggregate shall be removed for other purposes without written consent of the engineer. If crushed gravel is used, not less than 50 mass percent of the material retained on the 4.75 mm or number 4 sieve shall be particles having at least the fractured face. A portion of the composite material passing a 4.75 mm or number 4 sieve shall have a sand equivalent of not less than 35 as determined by ASHTO T17 alternate method number 2. The material shall be free of clay balls and adherent films of clay or other matter that would prevent through coating with a bituminous material. So, aggregate for pavement, the several aggregate fractions for the mixture shall be sized, graded, and combined in such proportions that the resulting composite blends meet the respective grading requirements of Table 703.3 adjusted to reflect variation in aggregate densities. Aggregate for top dressing. The material for the top dressing shall consist of dry sand, sand screenings or slag screening so graded that at least 95 mass percent shall pass the 4.75 mm. So this is the table. So sieve designation, grading A, B to G. Next is the mineral filler. So description. Mineral filler shall consist of finely divided mineral matter such as slag dust, hydrated lime, hydraulic cement, fly ash, or the other suitable minerals. It shall be free from organic impurities and at the time of use shall be sufficient to flow freely and shall be essentially free from agglomerations. Excuse me. General requirements. So filler material for bituminous bases for pavements shall meet the requirements of ASHTO M17 mineral filler for bituminous paving mixtures. So physical requirements, sieve number 30, number 50, and number 200 na sila designation nga mm, so 600, 300, and 0.75. Maximum perfect passing or percentage is 100, 95 to 100, and 70 to 100. The mineral filler shall have a plasticity index not greater than 4. Plasticity index limits are not appropriate for hydraulic lime and cement. So methods of sampling. So we have this. So materials in bulk. So sampling from bins, piles of cars. So in this material, so bulk means dinaghan. So daghan ni sila ang kuan sa ilang paliton or methods nga paano nila sa materials. So portions may be taken from holes dug into the material at 5 or more locations to provide a field sample of at least 5 kilograms. Sampling from conveyors. So sample portions shall be taken at regular intervals during the time of movement of the materials in the unit being sampled to provide a field sample of at least 5 kg. So materials in packages. So from the unit to be sampled, select at least 1% of the packages at random for sampling, but in no case shall fewer than 5 packages be selected. Shipping samples. So mineral filler shall be shipped in a clean, moisture-proof container and packaged securely to prevent the loss of material during handling. So this is the most important nga method sa sampling. 704 is the masonry units. So clay or shale brick. Brick shall conform to the requirements of one of the following specifications. So ayos to gyapon. So sewer brick, sewer brick and building brick. So sewer brick na sila diri sa ASHTO and isa is a ESTM. Ang building brick is a ASHTO M114 grade SW or ASTMC 62 grade SW. The grade will be shown on the plans or in the special provisions. Excuse me. Concrete brick shall conform for the requirements of ASTMC 55 grade A. Concrete masonry blocks may be rectangular or segmented and when specified shall have ends shape to provide interlock at vertical joints. So solid blocks shall conform with the requirements of ASTMC 139 or ASTMC 145 grade as specified. Dimensions and tolerance shall be as individually specified on the plan. So, nandiyan sa plans yun dapat. 705, joint materials. So, joint materials is first is the joint fillers. So, poured filler for joint shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M173. Perform fillers for joint shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M33 or ASTM D994, AASHTO M153, AASHTO M213, AASHTO M220 as specified and shall be punched to admit the dowels were called for on the plans. The filler for each joint shall be furnished in a single piece for the depth and width required for the joint unless otherwise authorized by the engineer. When the use of more than one piece is authorized for a joint, the abutting ends shall be fastened securely and held accurately to shape by stapling or other positive fastening satisfactory to the engineer. Next is the joint mortar. So pipe joint mortar shall consist of 1 part Portland cement and 2 parts approved sand with water as necessary to obtain the required consistency. Portland cement and sand shall conform respectively to section 700.1 and 703.1 nung sa table. If shown in the special provisions, air entrainment conforming to section 708.2 shall be provided. Mortar shall be used within 30 minutes after its preparation. Rubber gaskets. So ring gaskets for rigid pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M198. Continuous flat gaskets for flexible metal pipe shall conform to the requirements of ASTM-D 1056 with grade SCE 41 used for bands with projections or flat bands and grade SCE 43 for corrugated bands. Gasket thickness for bands with projections or flat bands shall be 12.5 mm or 1.5 inch, greater than the nominal depth of the corrugation and shall be 9.5 mm or 3/8 inch for corrugated bands. Next is the oakum. Oakum for joints in bell and spigot pipe shall be made from hemp, cannabis sativa. So line or Benares sun fiber. Or from a combination of these fibers, the oakum shall be thoroughly corded and finished and practically free from lumps, dirt, and extraneous matter. Next is mortar for masonry beds and joints. So, composition. Unless otherwise indicated on the plans, masonry mortar shall be composed of 1 part Portland cement or air entraining Portland cement and 2 parts fine aggregate by volume to which hydrated lime has been added in an amount equal to 10 mass percent of the cement. In lieu of air entraining cement, Portland cement may be used with an air entraining admixture in accordance with the applicable provisions of items 405. For masonry walls not exceeding 1.8 meters or 6 feet in height, a mortar composed of 1 part masonry cement and 2 parts fine aggregate by volume may be substituted for the above mixture of Portland cement. Lime and fine aggregate for other construction, masonry cement may be used if an as shown on the plans. Next is the materials. So either type 1 or type 1A air and training Portland cement conforming to AASH to M85 may be used, except that when the contract contains an item for concrete under item 405, the contractor may use the same type as is used for that work. Next is the copper water stops or flashings. So, sheet copper for water stops of flashing shall meet the requirements of AASTO-M 138 or ASTM B 152 for type ETP, light cold rolled soft anneal, unless otherwise specified in the special provisions. Next is the rubber water stops. So rubber water stops may be molded or extruded and have a uniform cross section free from porosity or other defects, conforming to the nominal dimensions shown on the plans. An equivalent standard shape may be furnished if approved by the engineer. So plastic water stops. So plastic water stops shall be fabricated with a uniform cross section free from porosity or other defects to the nominal dimensions shown on the plans. An equivalent standard shape may be furnished if approved by the engineer. So these are the tables. So required properties and test methods finish. Rubber water stop. So property. Federal test method standard number 601. And these are the requirements. Next is the required properties and test methods finish plastic water stop. So property. So this is the ASTM table. So the method and the requirements. So property, tensile strength, elongation at breaking, hardness, specific gravity. So hot poured pipe joint sealing compound. So it shall meet the requirements of federal specification of SS-S-169 for the type and class specified. So pipe joint packing compound. So packaging compounds for use with sealing compounds specified in section 705.9 shall be appropriate sizes and shall meet the requirements of federal specification. Perform plastic sealing compound. So for concrete pipe joints, it shall meet the requirements of federal specification SS-S-210. So next is concrete, clay, plastic, and fiber pipe. So first is the reinforced concrete pipe. So this pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M86 or ASTM C14. Reinforced concrete pipe. So this pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M170 or AASHTO M242 or ASTM C655 for specified diameters and strength classes. Perforated concrete pipe. So requirements of AASHTO M175 for the specified diameters and strength classes. Drain tile. So AASHTO M178 or M179 or ASTM C4. Porous concrete pipe. So requirements of AASHTO M176 or ASTM C654. So vitrified clay lined reinforced concrete pipe. So excuse me. Designs for fully lined or half-lined pipes of the specified strength classes shall be submitted by the manufacturer for approval. So AASHTO M170 and AASHTO M65 shall govern. So liner or liner elements shall be clay of first quality, sound, truly and perfectly burned without wraps, cracks, or other imperfections, and fully and smoothly salt glazed. So perforated vitrified clay pipe. So the pipe shall requirements of AASHTO M65 for pipe with full circular cross section for the specified diameters and strength class. When specified, the bell shall have integral spacer lugs to provide for an annular opening and self-centering feature. So vitrified clay pipe. So the pipe shall conform to requirements of section 706.7 or the table for the specified diameters and strength classes for circular, unperforated or perforated pipe as shown on the plans. Next is the cradle invert clay pipe. So the pipe shall conform to the applicable requirements of AASHTO M65. Asbestos cement pipe. The pipe shall conform of the requirements of AASHTO M217 or ASTM C428. Perforated asbestos cement pipe shall requirements of AASHTO M189 for the specified diameters. Bituminized fiber pipe requirements of AASHTO M177, ASTM D1861 or D1862. Perforated bituminous fiber pipe. This pipe shall conform to the requirements of Section 706.12 for the specified diameters unless otherwise specified, either Type 1 or Type 2. Couplings may be furnished. Next is the last is the metal pipe. So under of the metal pipe has a cast iron pipe. This pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M64 or ASTM A716 for the specified diameters and strength classes. Unless otherwise specified, other smooth, corrugated, or ribbed pipe may be furnished. Pipe of diameter in excess of 1.2 meters or 48 inches shall conform to ANSI or ANSI standard for cast iron pit cast pipe for specified diameters and strength class. Corrugated iron or steel pipe and pipe arcs. So riveted pipe and pipe arc. So ang riveted, so katong dili ginawili ito mga naginapan nga rivets. So the conduit shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M36 and M218 for the specified dimensions and thickness. Welded pipe and pipe are so welded. So corrugated steel pipe and pipe arcs fabricated by resistance spot welding shall comply with the applicable requirements of AASHTO M36 and M218. Next is the helical pipe. Unperforated helically corrugated pipe shall conform to sizes shown on the plans and with the applicable requirements of AASHTO M36 and M218. Bituminous coated corrugated iron or steel pipe and pipe arcs. These conduits, coupling bands, and special sections shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M190 coating type A, B, or C as specified. So, coupling bands shall be fully coated with bituminous material. Special sections such as elbows and other sections shall be conformed to the applicable requirements of AASHTO M190 coating and invert paving shall be of. Next is the corrugated iron or steel pipe for under drains. So this pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M36 and M218 for the specified diameters and types. So galvanized materials part circle pipe may be used if permitted by the special provisions and shown in the bid schedule. Next is the bituminous coated iron steel pipe for under drains. This pipe shall conform to the requirements of AASHTO M36 and M218 and shall be coated with bituminous material to meet the requirements of AASHTO M190 Type A coating except that the minimum coating thickness of AASHTO M190 Type A coating or coupling bands shall be fully coated. So the specified minimum diameter of perforation shall apply after coating. The engineer may waive the imperviousness test if no separation of coating for the metal is observed. So that's all. My report is all about the Dpwh book from 700 to 707. So thank you guys. God bless and keep safe always.